Hey there, welcome back to another video. This time around, it is my review of the 1982 sequel, Death Wish 2. Now, Death Wish 2 is one of those sequels that really was a surprise hit for everyone involved with it. They were hoping that it would just make some profit, but it wound up doing really well. So that led to this becoming a legitimate franchise. This was in a lot of ways a shot in the dark for a lot of people involved. I mean, it had been 8 years since the last film had come out in theaters. So you had a struggling studio in Filmways that was about to go bankrupt, who were like, hey, what can we get the rights to so we can get some money? Like, we're not asking for enough to save us because we are too far gone when it comes to our financial viability at this point. So, what do we have? What can we get? And they managed to get the rights to Death Wish. And Canon Films got involved, and they had a distribution deal, which wound up making them $2 million alone from this film. And Filmways went under pretty soon after this was released. So it's not like Filmways really benefited a lot from Death Wish 2 doing well because they were so far gone at that point. And despite it being a random shot in the dark and just something to get investors to think that they are still a viable company, it turned out to be a lot better than I think a lot of people planned, or a lot of people thought it would be. I know it wasn't very popular with critics, but none of these Death Wish sequels really are. And it still struck a chord with a lot of audiences. For a lot of people, this is the start of the Charles Bronson era that they remember the most. The era of his career that they look back on more fondly than other parts of his filmography. It's also the moment when the Death Wish franchise became not just a franchise, but became a much more action orientated series. And that has divided some people because there's some people who feel that the original, the first film, is the best, and that's fine. I have no problem with that at all. They prefer the more grounded, realistic, dramatic approach. And on one hand, I get it. I think that definitely does have its place, and I think that can work. I just didn't feel it worked as well as it could have when it comes to what was provided when it comes to the story and the screenplay in the first film. But here, I feel changing gears was the right move, especially during this time period when things were changing when it comes to what audiences were looking for in this genre. And there also have been a lot of other vigilante justice films at this point. So it made sense to make things a little more streamlined, to make things a little bit more close to what people in the audience at the time were wanting to see, which is a more action orientated film. Michael Winner directs once again here, but not necessarily by choice. He didn't want to do this. He has often said in a lot of interviews that the Death Wish sequels are things that he did for money. He didn't really have a lot of genuine passion for these films or these projects. He did them to pay the bills. And it's one of those things where I also get that. I totally get it. But at the same time, he was a true professional about it. Like, he didn't really let it seep into his approach to the film. He didn't let it seep into his directorial quality. Because I still think this is one of his best films when it comes to his direction. I think he did a fantastic job directing this movie, to be honest. I think it's even better than his direction in the first film. There are some shots in this that are chilling and genuinely mesmerizing. I feel the way that he shot the locations in rundown parts of Los Angeles, I felt that that was really terrifying, but in a way that really worked. Just showcasing the hellish nature of these slums and having Charles Bronson's Paul Kersey in a lot of ways act like the Grim Reaper who's coming to steal their souls. The sinful souls of these criminals. And speaking of stuff like that, I mean, you can't help but love shots like when you first are introduced to the new look Paul Kersey, who's back at it again. He's back with a thirst for vengeance. And he comes out of this seedy hotel, and you see the shadow of Paul Kersey just superimposed, not necessarily superimposed, but I just love the way that scene is shot with the larger than life shadow of Paul Kersey on the brick wall while he's standing there, just getting ready to go on his first hunt, his first search for his daughter's killers, and his first quest for vengeance in this film. Just a really great looking shot. And there's a lot of other scenes in the film that also look really good. So I didn't really feel that Winter and his overall apathy for this project is something that was a detriment to the film. It easily could have been, because, I mean, there's a lot of times where you have a director who's just not into something and you can tell right away. And I didn't really feel that way about Death Wish 2. I think he did a fantastic job with the film, making the setting feel very foreboding, feel very different from what he did with the locations and the setting in the first film, and just making the film have this very unique look and vibe to it. Definitely very grindhouse, very grimy, very trashy in a lot of ways, but it fits. It really does. Like, the film looks like something that you would find in the dumpster in the middle of this really burned out apocalyptic slum. I just, it's just a really nice looking film, despite the fact that it's featuring a lot of stuff that's not very nice in any capacity. The film also features a pretty solid script by David Engelbach. I'm not going to say it's a script that is top of the line and top notch. I think it could have been better when it comes to the balance of certain things. I would have liked to have had a bit more shootouts, a bit more action, especially if you're leaning more in this direction with this sequel. I think it could have benefited from a little bit more. Also, I don't like the way that the rape scenes are handled. It feels very exploitative and trashy in a bad way. I understand Winter's trying to go for scenes that have more visceral power and more punch to them and more impact, but it's something that he already dabbled with in the first film. This just feels cheap to me, very cheap heat, and I think the movie has enough going for it already when it comes to scenes of genuine impact. I mean, just having his daughter be put through all of this again, and then showing her jump out a window to her death and get impaled on an iron rod, that's you don't need anything else. You don't need long extended scenes of rape. It's not needed. There's enough there already to get the point across. It's exploitative. It's trashy. And it's something that Michael Winter was pretty infamous for, to be honest, when it comes to his filmography at this point. He just seemed to be really almost obsessed with stuff like that in a very kind of fucked up way. Like, I can admire his direction in this film, but I definitely don't admire his approach to just laboriously just really focusing on these rape sequences. It's almost like he relished in it, and it was just really uncomfortable. And I felt that the film could have had a little bit less of a focus on the love story. I think it worked. I actually think it was a better love story than the one that we had with Paul and his wife in the first film. But I do feel that there's a few scenes that kind of drag a little bit too much when it comes to trying to create the love story. I also think it takes a little bit too long to get to the point where Paul is going on this hunt for his daughter's killers. I think it could have started that a little bit earlier. Also, the villains are completely one note and there's not much to them. That's another thing that I felt the first film uh, really didn't have in its favor, didn't do very well. And I feel the same way here. It's honestly a consistent issue with this franchise. The lack of a truly memorable, iconic villain who's on the same level as Charles Bronson's Paul Kersey. For some reason, the franchise never really had that. The closest to me it ever got was with the main villain, the head of the gang in Death Wish 3. But even that is a villain that's very one note. It's memorable mainly due to the performance by the actor. So it's one of those things where, yeah, that could have been better. But I do like the fact that the thugs in this, they have more of a distinct personality. I like the fact that they stand out more from one another, where in the first film they kind of bled together a bit. Uh, I also like the fact that it carries over Paul's uh, profession as an architect. I like that. I didn't mention that in my review of the first film, but it's something I really liked about that film. It showed Charles Bronson in a very different light, him playing just a normal guy who works as an architect and he's just trying to make ends meet for himself and his family. I like that, and then I like that that's carried over here. I also like other carryovers when it comes to the script. I like the inclusion of Lieutenant Frank Ochoa. I think his scenes here are stronger and better than what he did in the first film, because he's a character that, at least to me personally, works better in small doses. The first film kind of overdosed on that character, and here it's a small dose of this character. He serves his purpose for the plot, and he doesn't really slow things down, and I felt he had some fun moments, and it's really interesting to me. Like, I didn't care for that character or that performance that much in the first film, but in the second movie, I actually liked Vincent Gardenia's performance, and I actually liked the scenes that he was in. So to me, that's a great example of less is more when it comes to that character. I liked the ending too. I liked how it was set in the hospital. I liked how Paul Kersey went way out of his way and got really creative to get this guy. Created a fake badge and everything and just showed up and just beat the shit out of him. I love that. I love that scene where he just finds his way into the room where the guy is and then doesn't even say a word. He just starts whooping ass. I loved it. It was great. And he gets a pretty good comeuppance too, because he gets electrocuted at the end of the film. I also like the fact that with the love interest and the love story, it doesn't end in the typical fashion. It ends with the woman being like, "Nope, I'm not gonna do it. I'm not gonna stick around for your vigilante justice bullshit. I'm not going to be next on someone's hit list. Peace. I'm out. I love that. That's very different. That's very unique when it comes to a film like this, where you have a love interest who's been really prevalent in the film for a majority of the running time, and for her to just be like, nah, I'm not gonna put up with this shit. Here's the engagement ring. Good luck with your vigilante justice deal, Mr. Paul Kersey. I'm not gonna take part in it. I like that. That actually shows some balls for a script to actually go there with the love interest, and with this whole love affair that's going on in the film's plot. The film also features a adequate cast. I'm not going to say it's amazing, but it's good. I mean, the definite strength of the cast is Charles Bronson as Paul Kersey. I mean, the man is a badass in this film. He's stoic, he's cold, he's calculating, he's calm, and he's just absolutely the epitome of an awesome badass who doesn't say a lot of words, but when he says them, they definitely do leave their mark. I mean, I don't think the iconic moment in the film where he runs into one of the thugs and he asks him if he believes in Jesus, I don't think that would work nearly as well if it was a different actor. Because Bronson is just so good at stoically delivering those lines with a cold deadpan. Do you believe in Jesus? Yeah, I do. Good. Because you're going to meet him. Bam! like, that's, I mean, just great. Love that scene. I also love the sequence when he takes out Laurence Fishburne's character, who's another actor who would go on to have a pretty big and established career after this film. One of his first roles was in Death Wish 2, and he's having a lot of fun as this really eccentric thug who wears all these crazy clothes and walks around with a boombox. And I love that Charles Bronson in this film just shoots him through the boombox right into his fucking head. And it's a great scene. It's a great moment too. Because Charles Bronson just sells it. He sells it so well. Even though he's a man who's up there in age, like, you still buy that this man could kick your ass. Like, you still buy that this man could take out an entire gang with just one gun. Because he's just so calm and he's so confident. So, yeah, the main strength of the film and the cast is Charles Bronson. But Jill Ireland does some nice work too as Jerry. The chemistry that she has with her real-life husband and Charles Bronson is very prevalent here. It's very obvious, and it's a genuine strength when it comes to the film. It makes sense that Charles would go on to star with his wife in so many films, because not only just because of the familiarity, but because if you're going to have a film where you're getting involved with a love interest, why not have it be your wife, who is a fairly well-known and well-established actress and a big name in her own right? Why not do that? Then you don't have to worry about creating chemistry with another actress. You already have that with your wife, and it makes these film shoots all the more fun in a lot of ways. I mean, it was a very special relationship that he had with Jill. I mean, they were together to the end. Charles and Jill never divorced. They never got broken up. They were really connected to each other at the hip. They went through thick and thin, and he was there for her all the way to her death when she died young of breast cancer. Like, he was there the entire time. So, for a man who's known for being such a hard, cold badass, it's really cool to know that outside of these kind of films, Charles was a genuinely good guy. At least to those who knew him. I know there were some stories where he's kind of a hard ass, but it kind of makes sense. But when it comes to him and his wife, they were inseparable, and it was a genuine love affair, a genuine moment where two people met and they fell madly in love with each other and they stayed in love with each other. So it was cool to see them have this connection displayed in this franchise, and that's a big reason why these scenes between Charles and Jill are easily the best that you've seen when it comes to any of these kind of sequences involving Paul being involved with a love interest. You can see why they're the strongest because of the fact that they really are believable, because it is. They had real chemistry. They had a genuine connection. Vincent Gardenia, like I mentioned earlier, I liked his performance in this. I felt that it worked here for whatever reason. Maybe it's because they kind of leaned back on certain things with the character, or I just felt the character had a little bit more to do, which is funny because he was in the first film a lot, but it seems like what he was doing here was more satisfying. It was more interesting to me. You also have Charles Cyphers, Sheriff Brackett himself, who plays a character named Donald. And you have a few other character actors from the time. You got Laurence Fishburne, like I mentioned, who plays this character named Cutter. I like to call him Boombox because that's really one of the defining traits of that character. He would just carry around this boombox all the time, and Charles Bronson really did give new meaning to the term boombox when he blew that character away. Kevin Major Howard plays Stomper. Stuart K. Robinson plays Jiver. Ian Lamont Johnson played Punk Cut. You had Thomas F. Duffy. He played Nirvana. Very different role from what he would go on to do later on in his career. I mean, he was a paleontologist in The Lost World, and then he was a football-loving dad in Varsity Blues. Like, that's a very stark contrast. A football-loving dad, and then he was some cold, sadistic rapist in Death Wish 2. So, yeah, it's an adequate cast. I also feel the cinematography is equally as adequate. It's not anything that's gonna really impress you, but it's good enough. By Thomas Del Ruth and Richard H. Klein. The editing I also feel is serviceable by Julian Semelin and Michael Winner, who for some reason used a pseudonym because I guess he wasn't happy with the editing. There's nothing bad about the editing. There's no reason to use a pseudonym. I just don't understand why he did that. And I would be absolutely crazy if I did not mention the score by Jimmy Page. I love this score. It's quirky. It's out there. I know for some people it doesn't work, but I felt it worked really well, especially when you're first introduced to Paul, when he's got the ski cap on, and he's got the new wardrobe, and he's got the gun, and he's going out on his first hunt. That score is really memorable and just adds an extra chill factor and honestly an extra factor of badassness to the scenes as well. It's an awesome score. You know, the piece that goes ba-wom ban ban ba-wom ban ban ba wow, bam, bam. Like, this is a score that was so good that it was used again in Death Wish 3. So, yeah, great score. I don't understand why people dogged it at the time. I do not get at all why it was nominated for a Razzie. Like, worst score? Really? Are you fucking kidding me? Like, from the opening credits, you're like, this is really different. This is cool. And I really do feel that way about the entire score. It's a very unique, out there score. And there are times where it kind of is a bit jarring, but for the most part, it works. I will take more unique scores like this any day of the week over boring compositions that just blend together and really aren't anything memorable at all. Like, you remember this score immediately. Like, after it's over, you've got pieces of this score still playing in your head. That's what a good score does. It sticks with you. It leaves its mark. The notes really connect in a way that not all scores do. And the film, it was paced all right. I'm not going to say it was super fast paced and it was exciting and it was thrilling and enthralling throughout, because that's not really the case. The plot, like I said, it really lingers on some things a little bit too long for me, and it could have had a little bit more action, a little bit more moments like the one when Kersey blows that guy away and asks him if he believes in Jesus. Like, more stuff like that would make this film incredible to me, especially if the pacing was tightened up a bit and you had some more moments that were on par with that. But as it is, it's an alright film. It's a good watch, and I don't really know what else to say about Death Wish 2 except thank you for watching my review, and as always, I'll see you later. See ya.